Rainbow Reflections, Book 3, Ride the Wild Wind, Chapter 13, Reach Out to a Friend. 4 days had passed since Sarala and the others had made it to Soljan. Each day, the trio asked around for Zin, but nobody had seen them. Sarala was getting more impatient, knowing that Zin was not in Soljan, but likely imprisoned by Kaokat. Her mood wasn't improved by the fact that all three of them were stuck wearing the same garments day after day, Khurshid merely buying one new outfit for each of them to get out of their dirty clothes. The only positive thing was that she seemed to be recovering from her 4-day imprisonment, especially as she was allowing her body to rest instead of practicing martial arts. She trailed after Khurshid and C3, the three sticking together as they made their way through the city to ask around for Zin yet again. She sighed heavily, ignoring the people as she turned to her thoughts. Hyaktu had called once, soon after he and the others fled Vinetown with the government on their tail. Yet Khurshid's mirror remained silent as time passed. Only C3's parents reached out with each day. Because they actually care about him, Sarala thought bitterly. Mr. Saihan doesn't care about me after all. If he did, he would have called every day too. Wouldn't he? Unless he got captured by the government. Her stomach twisted at the thought. If he had been caught and imprisoned, would she have nowhere to go? Again? Just stop thinking about him, Sarala urged her brain. The image of Hyaktu was soon replaced by that of Ren, and her stomach churned further. No, don't think about her either. But Sarala could not help herself as she went after C3 and Khurshid, only able to see Ren's frightened face in her mind's eye. Zin might have ruined the family, but I did too. Ren hates me. I kissed C3 at the dance to make her jealous, and she forgave me then. But when I beat her up, how could she forgive me a second time? Will she forgive me? Do I want her to forgive me? How are we ever supposed to be a family if she hates me, and Zin hates their dad? Her vision became blurry, and she raised a hand to her eyes to brush away the numb tears. I was so close to having a family. Then I had to ruin it. This always happens. Why did I expect anything different? She came to an abrupt halt in her tracks, the despair causing her heart to tighten and sink. Her head began to hurt, and she closed her eyes, trying to keep the tears from sliding down her rough cheeks.
Sarala?
She ignored C3's voice, turning away from him as a small sob escaped her.
Sarala, what is wrong?
Nothing, she growled.
But something is clearly...
Leave me alone, she snapped, wiping the tears with her arm before she turned towards him. Go away. C3 stared at her for a long moment, his face expressionless but his eyes concerned. He blinked, then swiveled around to trail Khurshid again. Sarala remained in place, watching the two continue along the boardwalk. Birds tweeted all around, and she could hear lemurs running through the branches above. It was a peaceful day, and the people passed by without a care in the world. Sarala took a deep breath, trying to focus on the tranquility of the damp jungle. Once she felt ready, she walked briskly to catch up to C3 and Khurshid. But her mind soon wandered again, like the twisting vines on the trees around them. She slowed her pace, staring at her mud-plastered shoes as she walked. Maybe I did deserve to have Mimita after all. A tremor of fear rippled down her spine as she thought of the woman. Where is she? Is she looking for me? Does she want me back? She's the only person I matter to now, isn't she? Because she was going to possess me, do something to me, or use me for some evil plan.
Sarala, are you sure you're fine?
C3's voice broke through. She stopped in her tracks and looked up, realizing that C3 had paused. His face was more worried than before. Sarala clenched her jaw and looked away, knowing it was pointless to brush the tears from her face.
Do you want to talk about it?
C3 asked softly. Sarala grunted in response, not in the mood to talk about anything.
Come on, kids.
Khurshid called over his shoulder. Sorella pushed past C3, making to follow the teacher, but C3 quickly grabbed her arm, attempting to hold her in place. She glared at him briefly and continued walking, dragging the small boy after her with little effort.
Sorella,
C3 huffed, half surprised and half annoyed.
please talk to me about what's going on.
Sorella sighed and turned on him. It doesn't matter, she snapped. I don't matter. C3 grabbed onto her arm with his other hand and dug his heels into the wood. Sorella jolted slightly backwards, then sighed and stopped in her tracks entirely. She kept her eyes on the ground, able to feel C3 staring at her.
Of course you matter.
He murmured. Do I? Sorella growled sharply.
Yes.
Apparently I don't, she uttered.
Where do you get such an incredulous idea as that?
C3 pondered, sounding more curious than bewildered. Mr. Saihan hasn't called at all, and Run hates me after what I did. And Zin ran away. Nobody wants me in the family. C3 opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Khurshid called for them on the opposite end of the boardwalk.
Kids, are you coming? Is something wrong?
We're coming, Sorella said loudly, hoping he heard her. She turned back to C3 and muttered, I'm never going to have a family. It's about time I just accept that. She shook her arm roughly until C3 let go of her, then practically charged after Khurshid. She reached his side as chimes sounded. Khurshid pulled his mirror out of his pocket and ordered it to answer the call. Hyaktu and Jabali soon appeared on the glass, both looking odd without their long hair or much facial hair. But Sorella did not care about their appearances. Her heart leapt in her chest and she moved closer to the mirror. Mr. Saihan! She exclaimed, unable to help the smile from breaking out on her face despite complaining about him a moment before. Jabali! Sorella! Hyaktu grinned. How are you doing? It's been a while since I saw you. I'm fine, she lied. Are you in Saljun now? Hyaktu shook his head, the smile fading from his face. We have a few days before we get there, he told her. Have you managed to find Zin yet? Sorella's own grin vanished at once. Of course he wants to know about Zin. He's more worried about them than he'd be about me. Of course he'd be more worried about them, she argued with herself. They're who knows where, and I'm obviously fine. At least for now. As long as Mimita doesn't arrive. She sighed and slumped her shoulders, forgetting Hyaktu had asked a question as she became lost in thought. C3 approached, remaining out of sight from the mirror as he eyed her closely. Sorella tried to ignore his intense staring as she focused on her feet again. Khurshid replied,
No, but we haven't covered the whole city.
Are you able to use spirit magic to locate them?
C3 asked, entering the frame as he shifted closer to Sorella. I just tried, but I didn't get a location, Hyaktu murmured, his eyes glazing over.
Yeah, and you nearly died,
Jabali scoffed. Hyaktu blinked out of his stupor, then turned back to the mirror. Khurshid, are you able to do it? Khurshid pursed his lips.
Spirit magic? I'm not the best, and it's only protective enchantments I can do well. And even then, those only last a few hours, a day at most. I'm also still feeling a bit drained after being taken by Kaokat.
Hyaktu nodded, his gaze sympathetic. I understand. I keep losing my energy. Because you don't listen to me, uttered Jabali. Hyaktu rolled his eyes, then said, If you're able to find a potion or an enchanted object that can locate them, try to get a hold of it.
That will be expensive,
Khurshid murmured.
This hotel we're staying at isn't the cheapest, nor is the food.
I'll pay you back, Hyaktu said at once. You? Jabali snorted. More like me. Same thing. It was Jabali's turn to raise his eyes to the ceiling.
Very well,
Khurshid sighed.
I'll do what I can, but after you get here, I'm done doing things for you.
Hyaktu gazed at him for a long moment, then dipped his head. Thank you. I really appreciate this, Kershid. He looked to Sarala, his face becoming solemn as he murmured, Sarala, He took a deep breath, then shifted his lips into a smile again. I'm glad you're doing well. Just hold on a bit longer, and we'll be there soon. Sarala frowned. What's wrong? She queried. Hyakti shook his head. Everything's fine. You don't have anything to worry about. Even Jabali was gazing at Hyakti suspiciously. Sarala narrowed her eyes, her chest tightening as she wondered what he had been about to say. But Hyakti was soon turning his attention away. C3, do your parents know where you are?
Yes,
C3 answered.
they will remain in Vinetown to await my return with Mr. Jihan.
Good. Hyakti sighed in relief. Just a few more days, and we'll all be reunited. Once we arrive, we'll find Zin and leave Galia. At least, those of us who want to leave. So, I can go too? Sarala asked a bit hesitantly. Hyakti shifted closer to the mirror, his gaze steady as he replied firmly, Of course you can! You're part of this family, Sarala. She nodded, her eyes pricking again. C3 nudged her, as if to say, Told you so. Can I see Ren? Sarala blurted out abruptly. No, never mind, you need to go and... I can get her for you, Hyakti said at once. No, it's fine, you need to go, and we need to get looking for enchanted things. Bye, Sarala said in a rush. Sarala, if you want to see Ren... But Hyakti did not get to finish speaking, Sarala reaching forward to hang up the call by pressing a red button in the center of the mirror. Hyakti and Jabali vanished, Sarala letting out a sigh of mingled relief and guilt.
What was that about, Sarala?
Kershid asked in surprise, returning the mirror to his pocket. Sarala shook her head. Don't want to talk about it, she grunted, already walking away from the others.
But you and Ren are...
I don't want to talk about it, she snapped. Kershid and C3 soon caught up to her, but they did not press the issue any further. The man led the way, allowing the teens to fall behind him. C3 glanced at Sarala several times, but neither of them spoke. Why did I have to ask about Ren? She obviously hates me, she won't want to see me, and now everyone will know we're not together. She nearly stopped in her tracks as she had that thought. Not together? Are we not together now? Can we not be together if we didn't actually discuss this? I don't know. She shook her head roughly, but it did not shake out her thoughts. As she tried to think of what Hyakti was about to tell her instead, all she could imagine was Ren's face in her mind. Would the girls get together once they were reunited, or were they officially over? Even if Hyakti accepted Sarala as part of his family, would Ren welcome her back? Sarala hardly paid any attention to where they were going until she found herself trailing Kershid and C3 into a tree, the scent of burning citrus hitting her nostrils at once. She finally looked up at her surroundings, noting that the room was dim compared to the world outside. Cauldrons sat around the narrow space, some of them steaming while others were empty. A shelf carved into the wall of the tree held glass jars full of different colored brews. Only one person stood inside the tiny shop, mixing a potion on the opposite side of the room.
Hello,
Kershid said, approaching the person.
Hold on!
The person barked, referring to a book open in their arms before stirring the potion in a different direction.
Give me another 5 minutes to finish this up!
Kershid did not say anything else, merely placing his arms behind his back as he waited quietly. C3 wandered off to the shelf, browsing the potions curiously and pulling out his mirror to take notes. Sarala went after him, not knowing what to do while they waited. Is there anything here that would help us find Zin? She grunted, peering at the topmost shelf at a potion that repelled insects. C3 didn't respond for several moments, his eyes scanning the vials swiftly. He tapped on his mirror a few times before he finally answered Sarala.
There are a few here, but they aren't the best,
he noted, eyeing his mirror.
One allows you to physically see the person's trail, but that could be an issue if Zinnivis is not in Soljan and has left no trail. Another one can be poured onto a map to locate the lost person, but I have heard a lot of negative reviews of this potion being quite inaccurate. I would not recommend we use it. This one can be placed on an object, which will then pull you towards the person's location. But as with all potion enchanted objects, the enchantment would likely run out before we are able to locate Cinemus.
So they're all useless, Sarala huffed.
Not quite,
C3 said, flicking his eyes to a brilliant blue potion directly in front of him.
This one can give you visions of where someone or something is located. It'd probably be the most useful one here, but if we do not recognize anything in the visions, it would be of little help to us.
It's worth a try, though, isn't it? Sarala queried. C3 nodded slowly, picking up the jar with his free hand.
I do believe so,
he agreed. Okay, that's another potion done, the potion maker said abruptly, causing Sarala and C3 to jump in surprise. What can I do for you?
We are trying to locate someone,
Khurshid replied. Do you know if they are near or far? The person asked. Khurshid frowned.
We aren't sure,
he admitted.
But they are lost.
The potion maker sighed heavily. Locating a person at any amount of distance is never an easy task. I wish potions were of more help in such situations, but I'm going to be transparent with you. They aren't. You'll want to search a shop with enchanted objects. Real enchanted objects, not potion enchanted ones.
Very well,
Khurshid murmured.
Thank you for being honest. Come on, you two.
C3 returned the potion to the shelf and hurried after Khurshid. Sarala remained where she stood, clenching and unclenching her jaw as she thought. The potion maker is now turning to a different steaming cauldron on the other side of the room, flipping to a new page in their book. Sarala swiftly snatched the bright blue potion, stuck it in her pants pocket, and hurried out the tree.
What took so long?
C3 asked as she joined him and Khurshid in the warm sunshine filtering through the canopy. Sarala did not respond. They pressed on through the city, but none of them spotted shops selling enchanted objects by the time it was noon. As they grew hungry, they stopped their search to get lunch. Sarala remained outside the restaurant, not wanting to go back into an overwhelming environment. She typically stood alone, but C3 made no move to follow Khurshid.
Did you steal the potion?
He asked the moment Khurshid left. What? Of course not, Sarala huffed, shifting her stance to conceal the lump in her pocket. C3 gazed at her skeptically, then said,
You ought to return it.
No, she growled. If it can help us find Zin, then we should try it.
But you stole it. We should pay for it if we're going to take it.
It would have been expensive, so I saved Mr. Jihan some money, she retorted. C3 gazed at her for a long moment, then sighed.
Fine. If you want to steal, that's on you. I suppose that, if we have it, we might as well use it.
Sarala blinked in surprise, then nodded firmly. She pulled the jar from her pocket and passed it to C3, allowing him to read the instructions labeled on the back. He skimmed the words quickly, nodding to himself.
Do you want to drink it, or me?
C3 queried. Sarala frowned, eyeing the potion warily. I don't know, she murmured. What will happen once you drink it?
You think of the person you're trying to locate, then you will see them in your mind,
he said promptly.
I can do it if you'd like.
Sarala shrugged, so C3 opened the jar, the smell of blueberries and cinnamon floating through the air. He lifted the potion to his lips and closed his eyes, then drank it in 2 swallows. What are you seeing? Sarala asked the moment he lowered the empty glass. C3 did not answer, his lips tightly pursed and his face scrunched up like he was concentrating hard. Then, without warning, he fell to the ground. Sarala let out a small noise of surprise and crouched beside him, prodding his arm. C3? Wake up! C3! No matter how much she shook the boy, he did not stir, his eyes firmly closed. Heart beating rapidly in a panic, Sarala picked him up. Yet as she made her way for the restaurant Khurshid had gone to, C3 moved in her arms. C3? Sarala swiftly placed him back on the ground and crouched beside him again. Are you okay? The boy opened his eyes and frowned at her in dazed confusion for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. What happened? Sorella pressed.
I saw Xenimus,
he murmured. You did? She gasped. Where are they? C3 shook his head, closing his eyes again.
They were on a ship.
They have a ship? C3 nodded.
That or they are with someone else who owns a ship.
Could you tell where they were? Like their surroundings? She queried.
Just blue sky,
C3 commented. Sorella sighed and got to her feet, helping C3 up. So we're no closer to finding them.
Perhaps not, but we know they are safe,
C3 pointed out.
They aren't stuck with Kaokat, and that is what matters.
Sorella nodded, straightening up as she saw Khurshid heading towards them, carrying a bamboo sack of food. Her mouth watered as she detected the scent of seasoned potato sticks, but she ignored her rumbling stomach as the taller man neared. Mr. Jihan, C3 saw Zin, Sorella said bluntly.
What?
Khurshid nearly dropped the bag in shock.
Where?
C3 swiftly repeated what he had seen, Khurshid frowning by the time he had finished his account.
They could be anywhere.
Murmured Khurshid, pulling his mirror out of his pocket with his free hand.
But it is good to know that they are safe and well. We better tell Hyaktu. Mirror, call Jabali.
The mirror showed Jabali's image on its glassy surface, but it was unable to make the connection after several moments. You don't think the government caught up to them, do you? Sorella mumbled, her heart skipping a beat. They were fine a little while ago. Khurshid sighed.
I'm not sure,
he said.
Let's eat for now, then we'll try to call again in a bit.
Sorella nodded, but her stomach twisted uneasily as the three sat down on the side of the walkway to eat. She took one pouch of potato sticks, but her mouth no longer watered for them.
Are you okay, Sorella?
C3 asked. She grunted in response, not having the energy to speak. She forced herself to eat one of the skinny sticks, the salt and pepper making her feel sick as she swallowed. Sighing, she set down the pouch, completely ignoring the wrapped sandwich sitting on the ground in front of her.
They'll be fine, Sorella,
C3 said softly, not bothering to eat as he gazed at her.
Mr. Saihan is powerful, and so are Jabali and Ren. If the government did find them, those three would be enough force to keep them away. They'll answer when we call again. You'll see. You will be a family.
Sorella sighed and pulled her knees in tight, resting her chin on them. I hope so.